It's always our pleasure to reconnect with Kyle Glaser, formerly with Baseball America. Great voice on Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, and specifically the San Diego Padres. Back with us, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Kyle, first of all, thank you, and I hope you're doing well. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, anytime. It's been a while. Had a busy summer, but glad to be back on with you guys.
I'm curious to get, and by the way, you just have me today. I should have mentioned that when we were texting back and forth. Jim is on his honeymoon in Switzerland and Italy, kind of listening to the show. I'm like, why are you listening to the show in Switzerland? It's 2 a.m. Go enjoy your honeymoon. So I'll be with you here for the next 10 minutes or so. So what did you think of the overall trade deadline strategy by the Padres, which was, entering it looked like maybe they needed starting pitching. They go heavy on bullpen help. What did you think of the strategy?
Yeah, so very, very aggressive and going for bullpen help and the price they're willing to pay for it. After the trade deadline, I asked AJ Preller what was sort of the strategy there. And he said that the final 48 hours or so, they really focused on bullpen help. They assessed the prices of starting pitching. And even though we saw Jack Flaherty be acquired by the Dodgers for a very, very low price right at the deadline, for the most part, the Padres determined that the starters on the market, the price they were being asked, is not what they wanted to pay. So they pivoted to bullpen help. And they gave up a lot in terms of young talent and prospect capital. But they built arguably the scariest back end of the bullpen in the National League. So we'll see if it all pans out, but they certainly have a lot of weapons now at the end of games.
Kyle Glaser, formerly Baseball America, with us right now on Jon and Jim. Again, you can't fast forward to the postseason because they need to get there. But if they do, and they've played very good baseball, they're positioned to, hopefully from a Padre fan perspective, get to the postseason. When you have a bullpen like this, what type of advantage is that in postseason specifically?
Well, I think it's an advantage really regular season through the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you feel pretty good now. If you have a lead after 6 innings, you feel pretty good about holding it. When you can finish games with, again, any combination you want of Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam, and Tanner Scott, and then you have Robert Suarez hanging in there for the 9th inning. I mean, that's a pretty daunting task for any team to score, multiple runs if necessary off of that back of the bullpen. So, look, it's a great advantage to have. And if everyone stays healthy, which is a big if, again, Morejon has struggled to stay healthy throughout his career. Estrada has already exceeded his career high in appearances, majors or minors. So there's a lot of season left, and these guys have to show they can withstand the grind of a full season. But if they go into the postseason, healthy and fresh, you can be pretty confident that if you're ahead after 5 or 6 innings, you got the game in the bag.
Do you think there was a scenario where they would have moved either Ethan Salas or Leo DeVries? It's water under the bridge right now. But were these two players essentially untouchable, or was there a scenario where they could have moved?
It was only going to be for a superstar franchise caliber kind of big leaguer. Again, no prospect is ever untouchable, right? Yep. Let's not forget Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, and Luis Patino were all quote unquote untouchable. Guess what? They all got traded. So, but again, they were traded for, Blake Snell, who was one of, in Patino's case, who was one of the most dominant starters in the American League, a Cy Young Award winner, who still clearly had a lot to give and a lot left in his prime, as he showed with the Padres. And the others were moved for Juan Soto, who, some would say is one of the top 5 hitters in baseball. So, I mean, that's the level of player, if they were moved, they were going to be moved for, and there was no one like that in this year's trade deadline available.
Kyle Glaser with us right now, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So I always go back to, this is still amazing to me. We talked about in the first hour of the show. In 2021, the Padres were 67-49 at one point. I think it was August 10th, 18 games over 500. The wheels completely fell off. A lot of it had to do with starting pitching. So I guess I'll just ask a general question. In your opinion, do they have enough starting pitching?
They do, and that's where the acquisition of Dylan Cease was so huge. And then Joe Musgrove is still working his way back. Obviously, we don't know what Yu Darvish's situation is, what his availability is going to look like. But one thing the Padres did that was very, very smart when they decided they had to trade Juan Soto was they got back major league ready arms. They got back Randy Vasquez. They got back Johnny Brito. They got back Michael King, who has been huge for them this year. And Drew Thorpe, who would have been big league ready, but they were able to flip him for Dylan Cease as part of that deal. So they're in a good spot right now. This isn't 2021-esque where they had to go Poe off Jake Arrieta and Vince Velasquez off the scrap heap. We just need to see now again what Darvish and Musgrove can give them. But that's also where having a deep bullpen, can help as well. The bullpen's better too. And keep in mind, post All-Star break here, the Padres have a 2.95 ERA. That's the lowest in the National League in that time frame, in the second Major League Baseball. That's a big reason why. They're 11-3 post All-Star break. That's the highest winning percentage of any team in Major League Baseball.
Which begs this question: is the division realistic?
With how banged up the Dodgers are, I think you have to look at it and say the Padres certainly have a chance. Again, once the Dodgers get Mookie Betts back and Freddie Freeman back and a lot of their starting pitchers back, that might change. But right now, the Padres are in position to strike. And I do think that if they're able to continue to stay hot and the Dodgers continue to scuffle a little bit, now would be the time to overtake the Dodgers. If they don't do it now, it's going to be really, really difficult once the Dodgers are, back and everyone's healthy. But look, you're only 4.5 games back. That's not a deficit in which you say, oh, they're completely out of it. Not by any means.
Kyle Glaser with us right now. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. What are you seeing from Xander Bogarts? I mean, a guy that was having a really subpar year, fractures his shoulder. It almost looked like for a moment maybe it's going to be a lost season, but he comes back, and we mentioned it earlier. In the 19 games since returning, he's hit .425, 31 hits in 19 games. He's got a .984 OPS in those 19 games. Obviously, that doesn't make an entire season, but what are you seeing right now from Xander Bogarts, and can he continue, not necessarily that clip, but in the second half to contribute?
He just looks like a stronger, more confident hitter, which, is a welcome development for the Padres. There were times early in the year where he wasn't impacting the ball, and it just none of it looked good. Talk about it looked like he lost some athleticism in the field. How was that affecting him in the box? But right now, he looks much, much, much more confident, much, much, much more comfortable. He's impacting the ball. This is the kind of hitter we know Xander Bogarts can be. Now, again, the defense is still probably going to leave something to be desired. But the fact that they have a nice rotation now with Cronenworth, Arias, and him, they can kind of rotate through, give guys some days off, get them off their legs with DH. That's probably going to be beneficial. So I think if he can keep this up, he's going to be a big asset to the Padres, which is honestly a welcome development, because there was a point earlier this season where it looked like he was going to be just a drag on the team.
It's been an amazing turnaround for Bogarts. It really has over the last 3 or so weeks. All right, you look at this wild card race. It's still tight. It's not as tight. Who do you see as an odd team out or two? You got Atlanta, San Diego, Arizona, then the New York Mets, essentially separated by like 2 games. Then the Cardinals and Pirates. I'm sure the Cardinals, they've gone for it, so they're in it. We'll see about Pittsburgh. Among Atlanta, San Diego, Arizona, the Mets, the Cardinals, who do you like, and who do you think's on the outside looking in?
You might accuse me of homerism here, but I really think the Padres are the best of that bunch. I mean, when you consider, keep in mind, if I had told you before the season that Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, and Fernando Tatis Jr. were all going to miss most of the season with injuries, that Manny Machado was going to take a step back for most of the first half, that Xander Bogaerts was going to not perform and be hurt most of the first half, and Ha-Seong Kim was going to take a step back, you'd have thought this season was completely lost and the team was in 4th place. They've shown a lot of resilience. They were able to tread water while all that happened, and now Machado's starting to heat up. Now Bogarts is starting to heat up, and they're in a really good position. You can argue that, they have not had their full team healthy and clicking at once yet. So I think as these guys come back, the Padres are in really good position to kind of separate themselves as the best wild card bunch. Again, the Braves are talented. They've been there. They're really, really hurting without some of their best players. I still think they'll get in, but this is not the same Braves team of years past. And look, the Diamondbacks are the defending National League champions. Eugenio Suarez is starting to heat up. I like the AJ Puck acquisition. Those would be the 3. I think the Cardinals are a little bit flawed to me. They have a negative run differential. I don't really see them as a team on the same level. And look, the Mets, I don't think they have the pitching to get them through the end of the season. I would expect them to tail off a little bit, but I think there's a real chance here. The Padres have a chance to really run away with the top wild card spot, and again, potentially make things interesting with the Dodgers at the top of the division if they could take advantage of all the Dodgers injuries right now.
Kyle, before you go, and it's hard with questions like this, but in terms of more credit, do you give it to Preller, who I think has made a series of really good moves this year, even if we can be critical, which we have been here on Jon and Jim over the years, but Arise, Cease, these bullpen additions, we'll see what it costs them long term. But are you giving more of the credit to the front office and Preller, or the coaching staff and the manager, with Mike Schilt leading the way this year?
I think it's all of the above. Again, AJ Preller has made a lot of really, really, really poor trades over the course of his career and really struggled to put together complete major league rosters. He and his staff did a great job this year. The Dylan Cease acquisition was much needed, and it was a really, really impactful acquisition. The Luis Arias trade, they fleeced the Marlins on that. That was a great addition. Again, they did the right thing with Juan Soto, trading him and getting the right things back. So a lot of that's them. And then you give credit to the entire coaching staff. Mike Schultz, a big part of it, the energy he brings, the credibility he brings. But also, I think you have to give credit to the new hitting coach, Victor Rodriguez. The Padres' approaches across the board are so much better this year, focused on hard contact, line drives, a lot less empty at bats with guys trying to play hero. I mean, Jurickson Profar has had a renaissance. Jake Cronenworth has been better than he has been in, past years. It's just all around been good. David Peralta's hitting. I mean, they've done a good job getting a lot of contributions from guys. And of course, Jackson Merrill, coming up the way he has. So it's everyone, the front office, the coaching staff, the players, everyone's pulling in the same direction and doing a good job. And when that happens, that's when special seasons happen.
Kyle, we love your insight. We really do. It's a great thing for our show and our listeners. We appreciate you doing it. Great to hear that you're doing well and have had a good summer. And thanks for joining us as always.
Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to join you guys anytime.